responsibility for state property and paraphernalia. Further to the provisions of the Presidential Transition Act 2012, Act 845, President John Dramani Mahama has appointed the following as members of the transition team. Chief of Staff Joe Deborah is leading the team. Marita Bruapia-Pong, Attorney General, on that list, while Dr. Benjamin Kumbo, Minister for Defense, will be part of the team. Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration Minister Hannah Tete is also part of the team, while the Minister for Local Government and Rural Development, Alhaji Collins Dada, is also a member of the team. Now, those representing the incoming government to be headed by President-elect Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo are Mr. Yaosafo Mafo, who is representing the President-elect. Also on the team is the head of staff of the Office of the President-elect, Frema Ose Opare. Others are a member responsible for legal affairs, Gloria Kufu, and member responsible for finance, Ken Oforiata. Also on the list is a member responsible for the interior, Ambrose Derry. Dominic Nitul is a member of that team, and he is responsible for defense, while Shelley Ayoko Boche will be the member responsible for foreign affairs. Hajia Alima Mahama will represent the local government and sit on that committee, while the member responsible for naval service, the head of the local government service, secretary to the cabinet, the national security coordinator, are all members of the team. The transition team, which will be co-chaired by President John Mahama and President-elect Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, will be inaugurated on Sunday, December 11, 2016 at 5 p.m. This information was put out by the Minister of Communications, Dr. Edward Omane Boama. All right, let's quickly make some sense out of this. The head of the Political Science Department of the University of Ghana, Dr. Bosman Asare, has just joined me on the phone lines. Dr. Asare, grateful for your time tonight. Now, in the past, it was an issue to deal with when it comes to transfer. We can remember proceed on leave. We also remember where so much that it became an issue. Now we have an act. How well will this act coordinate the transfer of power and ensure that it is smooth and without issues?
Good evening to you and good evening to your viewers. I think since we started this process, especially in 2000, as a country, we've gone through some periods of challenges, and we've even had instances where Ghanaians have been complaining that it's become an opportunity for people to misuse or abuse the resources of the state. But with this particular act, this seeks to ensure that we have some level of coordination coming from the various parties, meaning the government in power now and the government that is waiting to come to power. And when you look at the provisions, which makes it very clear that right after results are declared, 24 hours after results are declared, the process can take off. Now, as a country, our democracy is growing. And when you look at the way we conduct our elections, Ghanaians are maturing in that process. So the Act has stipulated certain requirements, and those requirements must be met by those in government and those who are also waiting to come to be in government. So I think that everything has been streamlined. So, and the main actors are also aware that they are doing this in the service of the country. So I think everything has been made possible for them to be able to promote the Ghanaian agenda, rather than the agenda of the government that is leaving office or the government that is about coming.
Dr. Bosman, great. The act will do us a lot of good. But let us look at below the governance structure, those at the down there. I have already seen pictures of social media where youth employment agency offices have been barricaded. Now we have situations where KVIPs are seized because we're told that those who are running it now are functionaries of the government that is outgoing. Now, if this act will deal with the top, have we neglected the down?
So I think that because the Act knows that once we are able to address the problems at the top, obviously we will expect that it will have a trickle down or a spillover effect to the bottom. And those functionaries at the bottom who are managing some of these activities, they know for sure that once there's a change of government. I was even having a discussion with someone who told me, once a new government comes in place, those who are cooking, the caterers who are cooking for the children, everything is going to change. Certain government functionaries, national health insurance, Maslock, etc., they know once there is a new government in place, their regime is also coming to an end. So I think it's something political actors understand. And when you are at the bottom, you take cues from those at the top. So I don't think the acts necessarily must also be looking at the bottom. Once we get the top right, the top are those people who make the decisions, and those decisions affect those at the bottom.
I see. The change, of course, should come, but it is the manner in which the change comes, the chaotic way through which we see people rushing there to take over KVIPs. For instance, I mean, who gets to cook for this school or that school can become chaotic if the proper thing isn't done. Now, if they want to deal with it at that level on their own, how should they ensure that it doesn't degenerate into confusion?
I think I do expect the political leaders across the aisle, that's the NPP and the NDC, to be able to educate their members in this regard. Now I expect the NDC to be able to elect all political appointees, all political functionaries in the various sectors of the Ghanaian economy, that once we are leaving office, you must also know that your job is coming to an end. And we also know, based on previous experiences, that at times when the new government takes over, they can allow the functionaries of the previous government to be in charge of certain things for some time. But once they are ready to take over, then you should be ready to allow. So I think a lot of education is very, very important. People must understand that, unlike civil servants who do not change with the change of government, once you are a political appointee, anytime there is a change of government, it is going to affect you.
Dr. Bossman, I want us to stay there because these are critical issues that people are asking already, asking questions about. For instance, DCEs were elected a few months ago. I'm not sure of the number of months. Now, what would you recommend should be done about their stay in office?
Hello, right, Kamil, I didn't hear you well.
I'm saying that district chief executives, metropolitan and municipal chief executives were elected some, I think, months ago, if not 1 year ago. Now, what would you recommend should be done? We can remember Professor Mills when he came into office and asked chief executive to stay. What do you recommend should be done to these chief executives? Don't forget that members of the NPP would also need jobs, and so they expect that they should be put in those positions.
No, I think that with the previous explanation I gave, once we're political appointee, and we know those who are serving as metropolitan chief executive districts in that order, they are answerable to the president of the day. And these are political appointee positions. So once a new president is coming on board, automatically that a new president will expect that he will appoint individuals who are going to share in his agenda, individuals who believe in his worldview. So I know once we're chief executive, it may be likely that you can be allowed to be in office for another 1 month or 2 months. But just bear in mind that per the nature of the constitution we are running in Ghana, per the nature of politics, once there is a new president, that president will look up to appointing individuals from his party or individuals that share the ideology of his party to be in charge of this decentralized bodies.
I see. So, how should the president-elect handle it? Because don't forget about the nature of our politics, so that it doesn't look like the president is simply kicking people out of office.
Decide that on their own they are leaving office. And let's bear in mind that the party, if even the president doesn't want to initiate it, the party bosses in those particular districts, constituencies will initiate it. And let me be frank with you, I know some of these districts, municipalities have already planned those who are going to be the DCs or the MCs in that manner. So, and those who are chief executive, they know some of them were openly campaigning for the current administration. Some of them supported the parliamentary candidates of their party, so they know that that is the nature of the game.
I see. Finally, before you go, and the president-elect managed some 5.7 million votes. Mr. Mahama did some 4.7. How did you see the elections and the way it went?
No, I think that some of us knew the MPP will be winning this election, but the margin is beyond comprehension. And what makes it very unique is that since we began the Fourth Republic, when the election started becoming competitive from 2000, and remember when Mr. Kufuor was coming in, we had to go for a runoff. When Professor Mills was also coming in 2008, we had to go for a runoff. But this particular time, the opposition guy coming in won in the first round, and the margin so huge. And we shouldn't forget that he won against a certain president. So there are many questions out there. And I know one of the key things, one of the key answers has to do with the fact that when the Canadians have their elections, we noticed that the leader of the Conservative Party in Canada, Stephen Harper, he was always telling the Canadian people that, oh, the other party, the candidate, the guy who is the current prime minister, or the other guy is coming from a party, is too risky, too dangerous, associated with this, etc. But it got to a point that Canadian people responded that no, if even he's too dangerous, we want to give him the chance. So I noticed that when you followed both campaigns, the NDC was trying to paint Nana Akufo-Addo as someone who can never become the president, someone who is associated with certain bad things. And one thing which is very, very important in electoral politics is that elections is always a referendum on the sitting administration. So whilst the NDC was trying to paint a picture why Akufo-Addo cannot ensure that Ghana will make progress, the people were also assessing the performance of the government. So some of us were expecting that the president will be saying that, oh, I've gotten Ghana to this level, give me the chance, more assurances, more hope. But when you look at the campaign messages, you realize that most of the hope messages were coming from the MPP candidate. And apart from this, I think we can also look at it from the angle that we know, obviously, the stronghold of the NDC, which is the voter region, many people didn't show up to vote. And when you talk to the voter region delegation, the members of parliament, a number of them will tell you that they are not really happy with the way things are going in the party. But the problem is that these are people who cannot come out openly to come and voice it out. And I think their concerns reflected the voting outcome in that particular region. So I know these two regions are very, very important. And I also think that moving forward, the NDC must be very, very strategic. Because if they are not very careful, you look at a region like Central region, NPP has won almost 19 seats. And the remaining 4 seats, with the exception of the commander in Negwafu, a Brim seat, the MPP can easily pick the Cape Coast South and is it Aguna East, and another one, I think, in the Gumua area. So if the NDC does not organize itself very well, 2020 is going to be very, very difficult for them. And as we have been saying that we have this 8-year cycle, by the time it will get to 2024, they will not be in a position to be able to contest the MPP.
I'm grateful for your time. Have a good night. Dr. Boss Matsari is the head of the Political Science Department of the University of Ghana there, trying to make out some reasons why the ruling NDC lost the general elections. This is News at 10.